When studying the name El Olam, we learn about Abraham, and how he stood firm on the ownership of the well at Beersheba when entering the country of King Abimelech. More explanations for El Olam are everlasting God. Olam means for a long time, without beginning and without end. Olam is over 400 times in the Old Testament. Our study comes from Genesis chapter 21:22-34. The treaty between Abraham and Abimelech. This treaty would prove very important to Abraham in an area where water rights were a valuable commodity. In those days, wells gave the right of property in the land. At that time Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, "God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Show to me and the country where you now reside as a foreigner the same kindness I have shown to you." Abraham said, "I swear it." Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, "I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today." So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves?" He replied, "Accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well." So that place was called Beersheba, because the two men swore an oath there. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. Another way to look at this story is, when Abraham and Sarah entered the country of King Abimelech, Abimelech inadvertently violated the rules of hospitality, and as restitution awarded Abraham free grazing rights to whatever land he wanted. Subsequently, a dispute erupted over a certain well of water that Abraham had originally dug but Abimelech's servants later seized. Seemingly unaware of the situation, when Abimelech heard of the complaint, he entered into a sworn agreement initiated by Abraham, a treaty that publicly acknowledged Abraham's right to the well and therefore his continued business activity in the region. Elsewhere we have seen Abraham give up what was rightfully his to keep. Yet here, Abraham doggedly protects what is his. The narrator does not imply that Abraham is again wavering in faith, for the account concludes with worship. Rather, he is a model of a wise and hard-working person who conducts his business openly and makes fair use of appropriate legal protections. In the business of shepherding, access to water was essential. Abraham could not have continued to provide for his animals, workers, and family without it. The fact of Abraham's protection of water rights is therefore important, as well as the means by which he secured those rights. Like Abraham, people in every kind of work have to discern when to act generously to benefit others, and when to protect resources and rights for the benefit of themselves or their organizations. There is no set of rules and regulations that can lead us to a mechanical answer. In all situations, we are stewards of God's resources, though it may not always be clear whether God's purposes are better served by giving away resources or by protecting them. But Abraham's example highlights an aspect that is easy to forget. The decision is not only a matter of who is in the right, but also of how the decision will affect our relationships with those around us. In the earlier case of dividing the land with Lot, Abraham's willing surrender of first choice to Lot laid the groundwork for a good long-term working relationship. In the present case of his demanding access to the well according to his treaty rights, Abraham ensured the resources needed to keep his enterprise functioning. In addition, it seems that Abraham's forcefulness actually improved relationships between himself and Abimelech. Remember that the dispute between them arose because Abraham didn't assert his position when first encountering Abimelech.
I found it interesting that Abraham planted a tamarisk tree. So I researched the tamarisk tree and found this very interesting about Abraham's choice. Okay, it was usually considered to be a memorial, and in this context, it symbolizes the covenant God made with Abraham, and he planted a tree in Beersheba. The particular species of tamarisk tree in the Bible in Genesis chapter 21 is a native species mostly found in a desert and usually thrives in soils with high salt concentration. During the day, it secretes salt, and at night, it absorbs the moisture in the atmosphere. And as the water evaporates in the morning, it creates a cool breeze, almost like an air conditioner. Interestingly, the tamarisk tree takes almost 400 years to achieve complete growth. So, the next time you come across Bible verses about trees, remember to pause and reflect. Almost all the trees mentioned in the Bible have a story to tell, and they're significant. So the tamarisk tree in the Bible is no exception. When Abraham planted the tamarisk tree at Beersheba, he was looking forward to the fulfillment of God's promise to his descendants, and he planted the tree for the benefit of the generations to come. He knew he would not benefit from its growth because it would take 400 years to reach its full growth, its full potential. The tamarisk tree in the Bible imparts a lesson to start planting valuable things for generations to come. In another place, in Psalms chapter 78, verses 5 to 8, says, He establishes a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach to their children, that the next generation might know them, the children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children, so that they should set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but to keep his commandments, and that they should not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation. We live in a world of fast-paced happenings, and patience is a strange word these days. But the tamarisk tree teaches us to value generations more than gratification. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree, knowing fully well that he might not get to enjoy its shade or experience its benefits while he was yet alive. Yet he planted it for the benefit of the generations to come. Are you focused on merely gratifying your desires at the moment, or are you planning your efforts, your values, your memories for generations to come, just as God had told Abraham, and how he would redeem his descendants, the Israelites, from the slavery of Egypt after 430 years and lead them into the promised land? Moreover, also in a particular season, insects on the tamarisk tree produce a substance that's sweet. It was called honeydew. Anyhow, hopefully we're learning about Abraham and his encounter with Abimelech, where this well was dug by Abraham many years before their meeting, and seeing how tamarisk tree played an important role for reminding us of our roots, our decisions, our history, and how our God, El Olam, is everlasting, the Alpha and the Omega. I think now when I'm reminded about Abraham and Beersheba and planting the tamarisk tree, I will also be remembering the name El Olam, meaning the everlasting, the Alpha and the Omega, and how I hope this is understandable as you read more about God's name of El Olam.